I'm joined in the studio by Hatice Han Er, a criminologist who's been following the case from the very start. Give us just, first of all, an overall appreciation of where you think, from your point of view, this investigation is, what's been looked at, what's been examined, what still needs to be done, all of that.
Well, it is a very big case, so I think there would have been a priority when it comes to the forensic testing as well. So they would be speeding that up, but I believe that the police at this stage of the investigation will be concentrating mostly on still trying to find where they could have dumped the body. So they need the body in order to be able to do extra testing, comparison of tests of the trace evidence that they've collected from the consulate or the residence or the vehicles as well. So everything is really just waiting for the body to come up as well. And after they find the body as well, I think they will be able to actually do various tests on the body, do some comparison of DNA, for example, as well, because the body, we don't know what kind of state it could be in as well. They would need to identify and make sure 100% that it belongs to Mr. Khashoggi as well, if it is unidentifiable, the state that it's in as well. So at this stage, forensically, that would be the most important part that the police would be working on and concentrating on at this stage, the investigation.
They're, of course, looking at one particular forest where they believe that the body may have been dumped in whatever state, as you stress, it's in, because, of course, of these lines coming out that the body was dismembered. Generally, in cases like this, is it difficult to locate a body?
Well, with these kinds of, it depends on the crime. With some crimes, criminals want a body to be discovered when they're dumping the body. That's why there's a lot of staging, for example, going on. But for instance, with some criminal cases and some murders and homicides, they don't want a body to be found. So what they would do, they would conceal it very well. Generally, that's why they would, for example, bury it underground, or they would get rid of it by throwing it into water, a lake, a sea, etc. Acid could be used, for example, as well, to get rid of the body, to make it unidentifiable too. So it will have been concealed very, very well. So I agree that the forest is a good option for them to have gotten rid of the body, a good place, or the sea, for example, any place with waters, lakes, and Istanbul has sea anyway. So it would have been easy in that sense, because with sea, water, once a body enters the water, you're going to lose a lot of forensic trace evidence. It's the little evidence that they're going to be looking for after they recover the body too. And for example, digging a grave for a person and burying them as well is good in the sense where it's going to be very difficult to find to the naked eye. But we have a lot of also very secluded, isolated areas like forested areas in Istanbul and around Istanbul. So it could be buried or it could be dumped in water.
It's interesting. From what you're saying, it seems like one of the most important issues of all is to determine the cause of death, and then some sort of post-mortem examination of the body would presumably reveal that. Because now the Saudis have admitted, yes, he was killed. Whatever else, he was killed, he is dead. And the first forensic investigation was carried out inside the consulate. Does that almost become secondary now because of the admission that the Saudis have been killed? You spoke to TRT World, and I was watching this interview at home, and you said this thing that really shocked me, that even after 30 years, blood cannot be concealed. So if they find traces of what could be Jamal Khashoggi's DNA, they then have to verify that. It may not be on record in anywhere in Turkey. It may not be.
But we know from, I believe from Mr. Khashoggi's fiancée that he was currently staying at a hotel here. So what the police would have done, would have gone to the fiancée, asked for samples. So they could have asked for his toothbrush. They could have asked for his hairbrush. So taking a piece of hair or his saliva from his toothbrush would mean that they would have a sample of his DNA. So when they find any form of evidence from the crime scenes, whether it's from the vehicles, whether it's from the consulate, the residency, or if after they find the body, they have a source that they would be able to compare it to. So they don't have any problems with that. And in regards to if they find the body, the police find the body, what they can also determine is this. The Saudis said, look, there was a brawl. They got into a fist fight and he died as a result of an accident. In an autopsy, they're also going to be able to reveal the cause of death. So, for example, even if he is unidentifiable, his body in a very terrible state, let's say. From analysis of the bones, for example, from his hair, they will be able to determine if it was a blunt force trauma that actually killed him. So his cause of death, they will be concentrating on that. So again, we will see if the Saudis are going to change their story again, like they've done numerous times, and really get to the point of how Mr. Khashoggi really died.
Look, just finally, from a forensic point of view, does a forensic scientist look at everything just based on the science? Because if you've been following the story from the very start, the latest, we see this black Mercedes and the BMW coming into a car park a few days later, and then a man identified moving something from one car to another. That all looks very suspicious. And then there's an imposter. The Turkish officials say this man's walking around the Sultan Ahmet area and he's dumping his clothes and he's pretending to be Khashoggi. None of that presumably makes any difference to the scientific analysis of what's happened. They're two very distinct things, but they work together.
Definitely, definitely. It's not always just about physical evidence anyway with a crime. After the police get the evidence, they would want to see and understand how the crime may have happened. So they want to understand what happened before the crime actually occurred and afterwards. So every single behavior, every single action, the vehicles, the people moving things from one vehicle to another, the double body of Mr. Khashoggi supposedly walking around in Sultan Ahmet and then getting rid of his body. I think that was actually another card that the Saudi government was actually going to use, saying, look, he left the consulate, that's him. But forensically as well, it is possible, because police do have this technology, where they can make assessments from CCTV images of a person. So they would have been able to figure out anyway. There was a lot of cues, even from watching from TV, that I picked up on. His hair colour, for instance, didn't match. His hairline did not match. His physical attributes did not match as well. The double body, for example, had a bigger stomach.
Yes.
The way he was walking was very different from Mr. Khashoggi's walking. His shoes were different. So I think that the Saudis, this was a plan to actually give to the television as well, to the whole world, saying, look, he left. But that was kind of, their plan was destroyed once I think the Turkish police said, look, we have CCTV images as well. So I think they actually kept that and didn't want to reveal that as well. But it was a very unprofessional job, even with the CCTV images, even with the double body. It was just something that seemed to be planned in a haste, and it just wasn't executed very well.
Hatice Han Er, can't thank you enough. Thank you very much indeed for coming into the studio.